Do you miss Tiger King, toilet paper sculptures, and that guy who wasn't a cat?
I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
Apple must be nostalgic for 2020 because the AirPods Max 2 are basically the same as the headphones they put out 6 years ago. The first revision came in 2024 where, as far as anyone could tell, the only change was to swap out the Lightning port for USB-C. So the question is, from 2024 to now, have these headphones changed at all to warrant calling them a whole new generation? We know of the highly publicized change, of course, the H2 chip bringing the processing power of these headphones on par with the latest AirPods. That means better noise cancelling, conversation awareness, adaptive audio, voice isolation, and live translation. So, not so minor a change when you consider the added functionality, and you might be forgiven for thinking this is enough. But let's step back a second and take a look at the big picture. These headphones sell for $550, only $50 shy of the surprisingly repairable MacBook Neo, and yet we still don't have parts or manuals from Apple, and there's been no mention of any kind of progress towards resolving some of the common failure points like the buildup of condensation in the ear cups. Given that Apple has had 6 years to work on these headphones, could they really have released the same hardware with the exact same known failure points and repairability shortfalls? A first look courtesy of Lumafield's Neptune CT scanner suggests that yes, these headphones really do look identical. We have the same dual cell battery placement in the right ear cup, and the electronics, buttons, and even the headband appear to be identical to the previous generation of AirPods Max. To test out how similar the disassembly process is, I'm going to roughly follow our 2020 written teardown. There will be a link to that teardown in the description below if you want to follow along. These new AirPods are labeled with model number A3454. As with past generations, you can find the model number hidden underneath the ear cup cushions. That really is the only identifier between these models unless you're willing to open one up and rummage around for that H2 chip. Everything from the cushions, button placement, headband, and even the color of the AirPods Max 2 are indistinguishable from the 2024 USB-C version, so let's crack them open and take a closer look. I'm going to start this teardown by removing the magnetically attached ear cushions, an excellent design from a user serviceability standpoint. I've always loved this part. Using a SIM eject tool, I can access a hidden latch inside the cup and remove the headband. Another great repairability design choice, headbands get abused and they soak up sweat and oils from your head, so being able to replace them easily is fantastic. Moving over to the right ear cup where the battery should be, and the number one concern for repairability and device longevity, I've got 4 captive screws that will only twist by a quarter turn. The first 2 turn counterclockwise and the second 2 turn clockwise. That's easy enough to handle. What's not easy is the fairly stubborn adhesive underneath the edges of this cup and around the center of the cup where the driver sits. Heat is an option here, especially if you plan on reassembling the ear cup using the original adhesive, but for my purposes, isopropyl alcohol is a quicker and safer solution. After a bit of struggle, I managed to lift one edge and jam a pick underneath the mid plate. I need to be very careful here. There's a ribbon cable lurking on the edge that I don't want to slice with my opening pick. Lifting the mid plate gives me a glimpse at the glue that I was trying to separate. If you look carefully, you can see the thin strip of adhesive tape around the mid plate edge, but also a thicker strand of adhesive that surrounds the driver. Apple doesn't offer replacements for either of these strips, so if you're attempting this repair at home, your best bet is to try to keep these strips of tape intact for reassembly. Now I need to remove the mid plate to avoid accidentally ripping the delicate ribbon cable it's attached to before I can move on to removing other components. So far, this procedure has tracked with the teardown we did in 2020. Back then we had to remove the driver before the battery, and yep, it looks like it's the same deal here. The driver is just held in by 4 screws, which is good. Most headphones I've worked on have had glued down drivers that are a little more difficult to deal with. It looks like I've got a bracket in the corner here, under which lives the battery press connector. Ideally, I should have disconnected this right after removing the mid plate to prevent any accidental short circuits while working on the device. And now I should be able to access the battery. It's encased in a plastic shell, and it's the shell that's screwed into the frame. The screws are a little awkward to get to, but it's not terribly difficult like an Apple Watch would be. Once the screws on both sides are out, I can snag myself a dual cell battery. The combined energy in these cells is rated for 2.53 watt hours, which is identical to past generations of AirPods Max. Given the same design and connector, the batteries across all 3 generations should be, in theory, cross-compatible. But what about the next most likely failure point, the USB-C port? It certainly needs a fair bit more disassembly, and this whole PCB needs to come out before I can even get at the screws around the port. Once it's out, I can maneuver my driver around these tight corners to remove the 4 screws holding the USB-C port in place. That's definitely not the easiest port removal, but at least it wasn't glued in too. Let's examine the PCB I just pulled out. Front and center is the new H2 chip, incorporating Bluetooth 5.3 and delivering the single most significant upgrade in functionality to these new pods. Along the outer edge, we still have a 32-bit ARM microcontroller, likely a similar variant of the original found in the 2020 and 2024 AirPods Max. Let's move on over to the left ear cup, where we'll find the same process, a quarter turn clockwise on 2 opposing screws and a quarter turn counterclockwise on the other 2. Removing these mid plates really isn't fun. For any Apple engineers watching this teardown, guys, please, I know you can do better than this. It's worth noting here that despite all this adhesive trouble, there's no protection here against condensation buildup. That's an issue that's plagued many AirPods Max customers that have been left with dead devices after a few short months. Keep that in mind if you're picking these up with the intention of using them at the gym or in humid environments. The left cup doesn't have any batteries in it, so disconnecting that mid plate gives me a straight shot at the driver. These drivers are connected to the rest of the AirPods Max 2 circuitry using spring fingers. Another press connector, screw, a coax cable, and lastly one more connector and I can finally remove the PCB. Oh, and that interconnect cable that enables power and communication between the two cups. The left ear cup's PCB has yet another H2 chip front and center, and the reverse side sports a second ARM 32-bit microcontroller. The last bit left in here is the large plastic encased antenna assembly in the corner. Once again, I've got a flex cable in the way of the screws I need to access, but otherwise the process is fairly straightforward. So I'm not loving the design of these $550 headphones from a repair perspective, but what's really bugging me is that Apple's made zero effort to build a repair ecosystem for them. They're not the easiest to work on for sure, but they're also very far from the worst. In the hands of a patient DIYer, these headphones could last forever, were it not for the lack of spare parts and manuals from Apple themselves. Even at the Genius Bar, it seems like Apple mostly just replaces defective units. To this day, despite a lengthy line of popular audio hardware, the Beats Pill is the only set of noisemakers to have parts and manuals available through Apple's self-service repair program. And as we've seen, there's been no change to the battery or port removal process and no change in the repairability of these headphones. That's a shame because it would take the most marginal amount of effort to make these headphones fully repairable for a truly sustainable future. That is, after all, Apple's stated goal for 2030. Why wait another 4 years to get there when you could do it now?